Excellent. An ale for me. And for my officers. In fact, ales for everyone.
10 Backward. With Rick and Will and Gemma.
Oh, yes.
Hello and welcome to 10Backward, a UK-based Star Trek podcast featuring myself, Will Turland, this lady to the right of me, Gemma Turland.
Hello.
A man over the internet, Rick Palmer.
Wagwan!
And another man over the internet called Rick Everson.
Hello.
So, we are here to talk about the very first episode of Picard, the new Star Trek series. We've literally
well remembered.
Thank you. We've literally just watched it all. Just
one episode.
Yeah. No, I mean, as in we've all watched
it, yeah.
But a few minutes ago, and we've barely composed our thoughts,
Indeed,
or our bodies.
Yourself.
And here we are with it fresh in our minds, ready to start talking about it.
Right at you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
enjoy our incoherent, unorganized thoughts.
Yeah. Should we start by just saying like
words
briefly?
Picard,
Did we think it was good,
dog,
or did we
trifle
bad?
Good.
Yeah, I would say it was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
End.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. We will join us for episode 2 of Picard. But I'm joking. I mean, at least that was spoiler free.
It's pretty much so.
Yeah. In fact, maybe we should say now, if you haven't watched it yet, don't listen to this podcast because we might.
That's a good point.
Drop some spoilers.
But then I guess in the title, the warning is there.
I suppose, yeah. This episode is all about the Picard show. You should really watch it before you get spoilers, because there's loads of stuff in there that you might not expect.
Yeah.
Mm. Yes, so, I definitely say I was surprised at various points.
Yeah.
I was watching it with my wife, who is not a fan as such, but was very, very much willing to sit and watch it with me. And on various points, she would say, "Hang on, what's that thing, and why should I be gasping? Because you were." So, therefore, indicating that I was clearly giving surprised gasps.
You were like, "It's a dog."
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a dog.
But yeah, me and Gemma watched it together.
Yep.
And
I know all the things.
You know all the things.
So yeah.
But we did have to stop it occasionally
because our children.
The kids were being noisy.
Yeah.
But that that was not related to the show.
I thought it had a nice opening. I wasn't.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, I wasn't expecting the opening, and it was lovely to see the Enterprise D again. It was just a nice shot. It was like a beautiful shot of that, and for an episode that I don't think kind of dwelt on fan service, that maybe felt like a little bit like a nice treat for the Star Trek fans to see the Enterprise D again in its glory, in nice new sharp glory.
Yeah,
it was a surprise because they had said several times in the run up to this that this was not like this is not Next Generation Part 2 or anything. Yeah, this is a whole new series. It will feel different. And reportedly, initially at least, Patrick Stewart's kind of resistant to too much TNG stuff. So for it to start with a shot of the Enterprise D was kind of almost a contradiction of that.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I think the show very much goes on in its own voice.
Oh, absolutely.
And I actually quite like that. That's like what we got of the Enterprise D. That sort of short scene. That was enough, really. I think they got the balance of sort of fan service and getting on with the story pretty right, actually.
Because there were a lot of salient plot points hidden, not hidden, but in that scene, weren't they?
Yeah, that's it. The whole thing of Picard having dreams about Data and Data kind of there was an element of the supernatural to it.
I
thought,
felt so.
didn't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that Picard was having these kind of visions of Data, like almost sort of premonitions about what was going to happen in the story to some extent, which was interesting and maybe not something we've really seen too much of in Star Trek before.
But I suppose I think maybe that first dream is an indication that he's still troubled by the whole thing with the synthetics and the ban on synthetics and
to
an extent the loss of his friend.
Yes,
even 20 years plus on,
weighed heavily on him.
And then I think the second dream with the painting is probably a subconscious trigger that he does remember Daj's face, and that's that little bit of his subconscious pointing that out, making that link for him.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a good point because he would have seen that, and he got a sense that he'd seen that painting before, didn't he? So
See, that leads on to a few things that I found frustrating about the episode, and it was how quickly, because the plot required it, how quickly everyone kind of got on the relevant bandwagons. So Daj turns up at Chateau Picard, and of course he's going to be kind to her. He's going to look after her. He's going to do what he can for her. But he believes her so quickly, and I found that just a little bit irksome.
See, I didn't mind that because I felt that he sort of had an intuition about her, and because of the dreams that he'd had, and he, you know, we know actually, I guess we know in retrospect from that he must have kind of recognised her from the painting, to some extent. So I think he was kind of ready to accept her.
And he could just be very trusting, maybe he's just very trusting. He's been living on his chateau for a while, and he welcomes any contact he can get.
Yeah. Sometimes, particularly older people, they just have an urge to feel a bit needed. So here was a young woman coming, asking for some help. He was like, flipping out, yeah, I help people all the time. I used to be a captain of a starship. I saved loads of people. I can totally help the one young lady who was confused.
But I do agree, Gemma. I do agree with you there. It did seem like a quick transition from meeting stranger to accepting stranger.
Things generally moved along at a pretty swift pace in that episode.
Yeah, it did do a lot in 40 odd minutes.
I did feel like in the second half I felt like it maybe was just moving a little too quickly. I felt like we kind of jumped a few plot points that would have been nice to spend a bit more time with, but I don't know. That's kind of a minor niggle. On the other hand, I liked that it got on with getting to the point of the story.
Definitely.
And like we said, it didn't spend a lot of time dwelling on nostalgia and giving us too much fan service. Yeah, it kind of it was as if it was kind of reminding us that it had a story to tell, and that's what it was going to do. And I quite liked that.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is, as long as it doesn't sort of fall into that same trap that I think Discovery's been a bit guilty of, is that it moves along so quick and packs so much stuff in that it just overlooks things that maybe be a bit more interesting to explore. And I think Discovery's been guilty of that. And that, coming from me, I'm fairly uncritical of most Star Trek, but I do think that's a flaw that comes up a little bit, and so I don't want that necessarily to happen again here, because I'm quite intrigued by the whole plot and I would love to see it fully explored.
Yeah, it seems like a lot has happened in between Nemesis and this show. I mean, the whole everything happening with synthetics seems a big deal. That seems like a major plot point, alongside the destruction of well, the destruction of Romulus, the Romulan supernova incident.
Yeah.
They seem to be two big things that have influenced the course that this show is going to go in.
Yeah. I quite liked as he explores the synthetic angle that they bring in Bruce Maddox.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a callback I did not expect, but makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So who was Bruce Maddox in when he showed up in TNG?
So he was the guy in Measure of a Man is he the guy who wants to disassemble Data?
Yes,
Right.
and build copies.
Yeah.
I think he's then later referenced in Data's Day when it turns out Data's in correspondence with him.
Yeah.
So
it'd be good to see. I mean, I'm not sure if they plan to bring that character back, but it would be good to see him sort of like a benevolent character towards synthetics. Well, not that he was anti-synthetic in The Measure of a Man. He just had a materialistic attitude to Data, didn't he?
yes, yeah, and I think that would have
it would be interesting
painted
to
him
see.
in a bad light.
It would be interesting to see that character with a more sort of rounded appreciation of those sorts of beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because I didn't know if they would maybe directly reference Lal as well.
Yeah, I was wondering that because we do get the the whole thing about Data's daughter, and I was wondering if Lal was going to get a shout out. But no, well, not yet anyway.
No, Picard made their reference like Data always wanted a daughter.
Mm.
It seems a strange way to phrase it to me, but
Yeah, because he did have a daughter
hmm.
in a really memorable episode.
Yeah. So it was it's definitely I did appreciate the callback to Maddox because I think it made sense that he would still be leading the Daystrom Institute efforts to create synthetic life.
Yeah.
But even apparently had gone disastrously wrong.
Yeah. And we were saying, Gemma, how much we liked the interview scene.
Yes.
That felt I really like that because it felt like really good sort of economic storytelling. Like we had Picard kind of struggling with not wanting to talk about why he left Starfleet, and that there was like some emotion to that interview, but then also like a whole chunk of exposition and backstory for the audience,
and also explaining the world that they were in at that moment in time as well.
Yeah.
Really, I thought that was really nicely done.
That was a fantastic scene.
We don't see the Federation News Service very much in Star Trek, so
no,
it seemed like a new angle that they were doing with. It reminded me a bit of Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it have been amazing if we'd seen old Jake Sisko show up?
I was just thinking
that would have been cool. That would have been really cool, actually. But I like that too. It allowed, like you were saying, it allowed us to get some information on what was going on and what had happened in the past.
Yeah.
In reference to some of the imagery we see in that dream sequence at the beginning, that the attack on Mars.
Yeah.
I think we'd seen some footage of a red planet being attacked in the trailers and stuff, and I hadn't at all twigged that it might be Mars, so that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched the short trek Children of Mars?
No.
Oh, is that to do with the attack?
It doesn't give you a lot, but it is referenced in that.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
So you do get a few brief clips of it. So.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a separate story, really. But although I really appreciate it and thought it was a lovely little piece, but there's a reference to the attack on Mars. You see a bit of footage, and you even see a reference to Admiral Picard at the point as well.
Cool. So what did you guys think of Picard's reasons for leaving Starfleet?
Definitely. Well, so it basically boils down to Starfleet went back on its promise to aid the Romulans.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't disbelieve it. We've seen Picard ready to quit Starfleet before. Insurrection. He was gonna go rogue and save one village. So if he
But he was mad. He was, to be fair, he was mad horny in that film. He's not mad horny now, I don't think. Or he might be. I don't know. But
I'm not going to rule it out.
I liked that. I liked that he sort of fell out with Starfleet over that. It didn't feel unrealistic that Starfleet would kind of, kind of looking after their own.
They were
again.
Bloody Starfleet.
Forget the Romulans. We've got Mars is on fire. Which, okay, fair enough. That is a big deal. But in the attitude of the interviewer, I mean, I know it's an interviewer's job is to create an atmosphere where someone defends their actions, but she was very dismissive of the idea that they would help another planet that wasn't.
Yeah, right from the get-go, it was like, but what would they say? They've been our oldest enemies.
Yeah,
Picard made the point when she said saving these Romulan lives, and he's like, no, they're just lives.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe we'll find out. There's been some. We'll maybe find out more of what's happened between the Federation and Romulus. Well, the Romulans since that destruction. I suppose we might find out more. I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I really like that straight from the first episode, we've gone right in and had, the questions around, well, what's happened since Nemesis and since the destruction of Romulus in the 2009 Star Trek, what's gone on there? And in the very first episode, they're like, right, let's answer that question.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
We got a lot more information in this episode than I necessarily thought we would do. I thought they were going to really draw out the mystery of Daj.
Yeah.
And in fact, not only did they kind of give us a fairly straight answer about who she was, they killed her.
Yeah.
And that was kind of brutal and a little bit disappointing.
That was that brings me to one of my slight niggles about the episode is that I didn't like that. So she got killed, and Picard got exploded, and then he kind of wakes up and he's back in his
he's all right
farmhouse, and he's okay. He didn't have to go to hospital or anything. I was like, but that's very convenient. It felt like they were like, oh, we don't even have to do a scene where he goes to hospital and then they bring him back, and then there's some mystery about. Because we need to get on with the story, so let's just say they took him home, and we didn't see anyone else in the CCTV.
So, what about his dicky? Yeah, he's got a dicky ticker.
He does have a dicky ticker.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, well, they might. I mean, by now, he might be
they could just put an upgraded one in there.
Yeah.
But
no.
I mean, I got the impression that there was possibly some cover-up to do with the fact that there was no evidence that there'd been an explosion.
Absolutely, something's gone on.
Yeah,
it just felt like I wanted to dwell on that.
Yeah,
on that sort of on Daj's death and what sort of happened next.
See, I think there have been a few parts in this episode where something as because the plot needs the story to go on, some conveniences have happened, like his convenience of waking up in his house, the convenience of him believing Daj, the convenience of the scientist in Daystrom Institute just not thinking he's a crazy old man. When he says,
Yeah.
I just had tea with one. So, okay, nice crazy old man.
Security.
But I think that calls back to what Picard has always been. He's always been a leader. If you go back to Insurrection, and as much as I was not enamoured of the character of Anij, she did say, are you aware of the trust you engender? I think he is a man who can be charming, disarming, and just create that sense of trust and loyalty in people very, very quickly.
True,
It's part
but
of what makes him a legendary captain.
But in support of Gemma's point, in all good things, future Picard with a beard on the vineyard, his whole thing is trying to get people to convince people that what he's saying is real, and their faith in him is the thing that carries them through. So I agree with what Gemma's saying. Like thinking back, him turning up at the Daystrom and going, I had tea with an android. Help me, please help. Like, another one of these guys.
No, I mean,
it's all right. It's fine that you didn't have tea with an android. It was just your son-in-law.
I'm not actually dismissing Gemma's point, because I think it is the episode's being economical.
Yeah,
it's rushing stuff.
Yeah.
My feeling of it is the way I think it. But why am I required to fill in the blanks?
Yeah.
So I think where Jim's point is correct is the story is not really getting that across as much as it maybe should do. And so it can come across very much as like this crazy old man says he's had tea with an android. When in fact, I think there's more behind it, but it's just not showing us maybe as well as it could do.
Yeah.
As much as I'm loath to be critical, but
it might just be that I don't know. I might feel like it sort of flows a bit better on a rewatch, and I'm sure there will be a rewatch.
And it may, second episode in all of these issues, because they don't have to rush it so much because it's not the first episode, will be ironed out a bit more.
That's it. It felt very much like this was sort of the first part of a 2-part season opener. And
I've seen some people on Twitter saying, because these are people who were fortunate enough to go to one of the premiere events that showed the first 3 episodes, and they talking about how 3 together.
They got to see the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're talking about 3 together, almost like a movie. So I think once we've seen episodes 2 and 3, it's probably then worth doing a rewatch of all 3 in one go.
Yeah. Well, I was supposing that maybe they did that because maybe 7 of 9 shows up in like episode 2, and then and then Riker and Troy show up in episode 3, and maybe when they did the premiere, they wanted to kind of invite everyone who'd been in those episodes, and
that also makes sense.
But which is cool, because then that means hopefully we get to see 7 of 9 soon.
And the Rikers.
Cool. Yeah. And I actually like that they didn't cram everything into the first episode.
Definitely.
We're still hanging on seeing 7 of 9 and the Rikers, and that's cool. I'm glad.
It was a busy enough episode about trying to shoehorn on all that stuff in one go.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's interesting to see Picard in a world which isn't your typical kind of positive Star Trek post-nuclear utopia society. Like it seems like it felt like a more grounded show, like with the interview and everything and the world that he lives in. It seemed a lot less idealistic. It seemed like we were seeing Picard in a sort of a relatively realistic setting. Not to say that the Star Trek universe isn't unrealistic, but Star Trek is very sort of utopian. That's what it's built around.
Yeah.
This, I mean, particularly with his interview and his strong reaction, this feels like we're seeing maybe a Federation that's starting to lose its way. That's like moved back from its ideals, and you kind of think, well, actually, there has been a lot of stuff, because since Next Gen started, and that was kind of in an era of like incredible peace, and it was a very idealistic utopian. But then we find the Borg, then the Dominion War happens, so it's kind of like you can see where these things maybe do start to pile up. And it becomes a Federation that's sort of trading its ideals for survival in a way.
I imagine that there'll be Star Trek fans out there enraged at the idea of the Federation sort of maybe not being quite so much of a utopia anymore.
So.
But I imagine you don't feel that way, do you,
I've never
Gemma?
felt.
You
I've
hate
never
the
been a
Federation.
utopia. It's always been a dystopia, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a fair point. That actually, if you we've talked about it before on the podcast, haven't we? That if you
We
get
have.
into that
Yeah.
utopia, it's
Yeah.
not all utopian. So no,
It's not all happy clappy.
yeah, and I like that this is a this is a different story in a different time to what we saw in TNG.
And I think it's another sign of just how much Deep Space Nine has done for the franchise,
Yeah.
because Deep Space Nine pioneered the type of story that says, yeah, we've got a utopia, but so what? How difficult is it to maintain that? What happens when people stray from it? What happens when you're faced with choices about survival versus maintaining those principles? And DS9 started that, and I think what we're seeing here now is a natural development and outgrowth. We're finding the idealistic Jean-Luc Picard trying to deal with a Federation that is not living up to his ideals.
It just feels like the Federation it feels like it's exhausted. Like it had the Dominion War, and Romulus was wiped out. They launched an armada that went wrong. Rogue Synths attacked. I mean, I think it's I think it's understandable the Federation might want to be like, oh, come on, let's just pare things back for now.
Yeah.
I mean, so I hope that's an element that we explore too. I hope that we see the other side of the story, from the one that seems to portray the Starfleet and the Federation as like uncaring and not being true to their ideals, because it seems like a lot of shit has gone on in the 20 or so years since Nemesis, and it'd be great to see that, or at least get information on that.
Yeah.
But it feels like a realistic kind of reaction that the Federation. Well, so I guess Starfleet, isn't it? Because they say Starfleet rather than the Federation, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they make that distinction.
One thing in DS9 as well is that Star Trek doesn't dwell on too much, but DS9 did a little bit, was the idea of fighting a war and why it's sending its people to fight a war. I mean, and which is an incredibly relevant topic. It's always a relevant topic, but especially now. And it would be interesting to see that too. I mean, perhaps a Federation that is a bit kind of tired of sending its citizens into conflicts and doing things and dying for.
It probably is. I mean,
what might seem like very little results. I don't know. I'm spitballing here, but it seems like this series is a great opportunity to kind of explore these ideas without sort of casting blame.
Yeah. Because I think you've got maybe Picard's view, when he got particularly frustrated with the reporter, is that for them it was easy. They don't see what history was really like, what it was like for the people in the wars, the people who didn't come back, and they can just dismiss it with a wave of their hand. And he kind of is almost then like this sort of attitude of old versus young, where old people say, "We've done this, we've fought for this, and you've got no idea." But on the other hand, young people have maybe got their own things going on, and they're sort of perpetually trying to recover from the messes of the older generation in a way.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what's the opposing attitude, because I don't think that reporter was maybe the best embodiment of it. She was kind of quite smug and irritating.
Yeah.
But it would be nice. It would be good. It would be interesting for Picard to run up against younger people who are a bit like, actually, do you know what? We do want to withdraw. We do want to step back from the galaxy, because you guys have been, all we're living with is the legacy of the wars you guys got us into when you were in Starfleet. Maybe that kind of opposite thing. But then I imagine at the end, Picard is going to address the Federation Council and give a very long speech that's going to make them all a bit ashamed of themselves, and they'll start sort of bucking their ideas up.
He'll definitely do some speechifying.
Oh,
Sure.
Better. What's the point of even watching if Picard isn't going to do epic speechifying?
Yeah. But speaking of young and old, one thing I really liked is that we very much see Picard as an old man, and then the show isn't trying to pretend that he's young action movie Picard, like he was in the movie era. Like I loved the bit where in the action sequence where where him and Daj run up those steps, and he's like,
Yeah.
I can't. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I love that too, actually.
Yeah.
So
Literally
it's
too
like-
old for running up these stairs.
I thought, yeah, of course. You know, he's like 80. So he's gonna have trouble. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
It kind of would have been a bit embarrassing and clunky if we'd have suddenly seen like Picard's stunt double doing some like kung fu. That would have been
Yeah.
awful, wouldn't it?
That would have been hilariously terrible.
Yeah. And then, so right at the end, we see
Yes.
Romulans on a Borg
Borg
cube.
A reclamation yard.
Yes, a reclamation yard.
A
What the
Borg-
what?
I can't help but think that taking apart a Borg cube and possibly using it in other things is a really bad idea.
Nah.
Colossally stupid, I would
What do you
describe it
mean?
as.
Nothing could go wrong.
Possibly go wrong.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean,
But
that was
it-
a great visual as well. I mean, I loved the closing
Yeah.
shot where we pull back and we sort of get the reveal that it's a big old Borg cube. Even though I guess that it's kind of spoiled from the trailers.
Yeah,
'cause
a
we
little
already
bit.
knew that, but
Yeah, well, I think we knew where it was going. But interesting that it's a Romulan reclamation centre, but that's where Daj's twin is.
yeah,
And also interesting that it turns out the people that are trying to chase Daj down were Romulan.
But
Hmm.
well, different factions.
Well, that's exactly the conversation I had with Faye. She was like, "But is Star Trek just going to say that they're all Romulans and they're all doing this?" I was like, "No, I think there'll be different factions. We have seen this before. You know, you have the Tal Shar versus the citizenry versus the military, and so there'll be more elements of that."
Yeah.
Hmm.
Daj's twin knows that she has a twin.
Yeah,
Daj did not seem she never mentioned a sibling.
Yeah.
So,
So do we assume
whether
that she didn't know? Or she,
Mm.
does Daj's twin know exactly what she is and
no, possibly.
stuff? I don't know.
Well, because they talked about the first agents who came in, who attacked her, so she's not activated yet, and they sort of talked like they had some sort of experience of her. You know, they expected they expected to see a certain behaviour to demonstrate either activated or not. So
Did make me chuckle a bit when they came in. She's like, "Oh, phew, she's not activated." Punch! Oh no, she's activated.
Why did? Yeah, exactly. Why did you do that? Why did you go in with the aggressive capture procedure? Why not go in with the passive one where you don't activate the lethal killing machine once you can?
yeah, I mean, brutally murdering her boyfriend and then attacking her. Not maybe the best way to not activate her.
It was my first day. It's my first day on the job, and I killed.
We told you not to do anything to activate it. Oh, I thought you said that we should do all the things to activate it. Me not understand. It's been like a bit of a comedy aside that they all died, didn't they? So
Yeah,
we
it
couldn't
did
have-
Wasn't that hilarious?
Yeah, it's a real Frank Spencer moment for those guys.
yeah.
Actually, go back to the rooftop battle. So some of these Romulan agents can spit acid.
Yeah, what I didn't quite.
What the
was
what?
that? Yeah.
I thought that was just Romulan. I thought they were
Exactly.
he was just spitting Romulan blood.
But
That's never been shown to be acidic before.
yeah,
But does it burn? Does it burn since? Maybe.
it seemed to burn. No, because it was burning his face, wasn't it? Wasn't there some evidence that it was?
It did look, and it was burning her
No,
clothing as well.
Was that like
Okay.
a suicide pill kind of
Yeah,
arrangement?
or maybe like a sort of almost like a sort of suicide weapon,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
last ditch.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
if you
guessing there's a special modification made to do that.
get-
Mm,
yeah, maybe we'll find out more about that.
maybe.
It was. I mean, I thought the fights were pretty good. They're pretty crunchy.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty crunchy.
Very crunchy. I liked it a lot. One of them got beamed out, didn't they? halfway.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they
So-
should have beamed back in.
Oh,
I
did
thought,
they? I
and
didn't
to
see that
continue the
bit.
fight.
Ah.
I think.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were all
I
good
thought
anyway.
the fights were pretty. They were sort of like a bit more adult than say TNG.
Yeah.
They were more like today's standard
Yeah.
TV martial arts.
There was a little bit of
fighting.
fast cutting, but not too much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I liked it.
yeah. But it wasn't. It certainly wasn't an action-heavy opening episode, was it? It was a
Nope.
plot-heavy, action-light opener, which was fine. Maybe the second part will be action-heavy.
Plot light.
Yay! But it wasn't. I think maybe sometimes you could criticize Discovery for being a bit sort of whiz bang and not taking its time to develop a story
Yeah.
brilliantly. Whereas the Picard doesn't seem to be doing that. It seems to, although it's not hanging around with its story. It's concentrating on that.
Yeah.
Certainly in its first episode.
That leads me on to something else I was thinking over. Is the technology in Discovery seemed kind of like the look of it was on a par to the technology in this, and I found that problematic.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because it feels right that since TNG, technology's improved and changed a bit, and so it feels right that the technology looks different in 20 years on from TNG, but it did. Yeah, it did look kind of like Discovery and all the sort of like the holograms and stuff that they had,
and everything was very clean looking, and but the technology seemed to be on a par, which kind of is problematic for Discovery, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have a problem with Discovery. I just like to state for the record.
You could just try not to think about it too much.
Okay, fair enough. Problem solved.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess in the far future, perhaps the kind of the levels between differences in technology are harder to perceive. What seems cutting edge and what doesn't. I don't know. I feel like
it'd be retro.
It'd be harder to be like retro stuff in the future will be super retro, whereas I don't think some things, say, from the 23rd century would be super retro in the 24th century, if you see what I mean. Whereas things that we like think of retro now, like a gramophone or a wax cylinder, in the 24th century, like, man, that's retro. Man, that guy likes his wax cylinders. He listens to Thomas Edison every morning, and so on. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I think with Discovery, it's just it would be harder for them to sort of retrofit it to fit in with the original series, even though that would be cool, and I would have loved that. It's easier for them to just say, well, Discovery is set a few hundred years from now, and let's just go with that. And not worry about it too much.
I think you're right. I think they kind of have to say, well, it's got to look futuristic because it is in the future, and we don't want to, like Star Trek fans might go nuts over a sort of a retro futuristic look, but actually we want to reach new fans, and we don't want people to kind of go, why does this look like it was made in the 60s when it was made in the 40s?
I mean, it would be cool if everything looked like. It'd be cool if everything looked like it did in BioShock, but it's just easier to make. But we could do that now. But it's just simpler to make it more straightforward and look sort of contemporary, isn't it? So it'd be cool to have a battleship that was sort of steampunky, and a bit like BioShock. But why do that?
Yeah.
Good point.
But that would be cool.
But no, I mean, I kind of agree with your point, Gemma. But I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, I don't know.
I liked the cleaned up Blade Runner look of, was it Boston? It was very
Yeah, Greater Boston. That was cool.
vaguely cleaned up Blade Runner Greater Boston.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Like all of the cityscape shots look really
Gorgeous.
cool, didn't
Yeah.
they? Lovely.
Yeah. I mean, I assume it's Boston and Lincolnshire.
Cool.
It's definitely expanded since the 21st century.
Yeah.
It could be. We don't know.
Oh, yeah,
In my head canon, it is.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. When we got to the end, I felt like, but it's not the end of the episode. Why is it ending here? This isn't the end of the episode. It's the end of the episode.
It definitely left me wanting more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing that bothered me. It felt like a realistic reintroduction of Captain Picard. He that character didn't seem like a departure from what we knew of him.
No.
Apart from,
Yeah.
I mean, apart from in All Good Things, he had a beard. He doesn't have a beard in this. That's about it, I would say. He's on a vineyard, and yeah. I mean, I thought it was good. I'm excited because this seems like a show that might go on for a while. This seems the kind of the core mystery. The core mystery seems to be something that is a story that might last a while.
Yeah.
And it will allow us to kind of re-engage with this world, post Nemesis and post Voyager, when we last saw these characters, and a great opportunity to reintroduce, the rest, or a lot of other characters that we love. I mean, I know this week that Patrick Stewart was on The View, and he invited Whoopi Goldberg to come back on in season 2 as Guinan, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I do think that as much as they can say that this isn't about being TNG, the next TNG, which it clearly isn't, I do think it's a great opportunity to reintroduce, characters that the fans love.
Absolutely.
And in the right stories, and that's so cool because there's so much story still to tell, and that's the whole point of Star Trek, isn't it? It's great storytelling, and it can be a mirror. It can be a mirror onto present times, and it can also be just great sci-fi and explore all sorts of different themes. And I think from this first episode, I feel like that it definitely has the potential for that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd say in respect to bringing back Guinan, from the strength of this first episode, it feels like they've got the balance between fan service and telling a new story now pretty much bang on. And so I feel like I think they could bring back Guinan in it, and it would feel absolutely fine. And they do it in a way that works for the story.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, there was one thing that I was wondering, and I couldn't. I don't know what the deal is with this, but where is Law?
So Law was dismantled after Descent,
Right.
and that's literally the last we know.
Because do you guys feel like that might be something to do with this? Like the rogue simulant angle seems like
That's something I hadn't thought of, but maybe.
Given Bruce Maddox was originally trying to take Data and copy him, and then you have a dismantled Law, you're kind of thinking, well, surely the Daystrom Institute and Maddox would have made a play for that.
Yeah.
But surely they would have said, well, can we have a look at Law? And of course, the sensible answer would be, no, because you don't want to copy him. He's evil. That would be like trying to take bits of technology out of an old Borg ship and use them. It would be stupid. Why would anyone do that?
Yeah.
So I'm almost completely convinced that they have done that, and it could well be the reason that the synths went rogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. I'd like it if that was the reason.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say actually is that I'd like that they stuck to what we saw in Nemesis, and that Data is dead.
Yeah.
And he hasn't come back. But it felt like his presence in this episode was massive. A lot of the story was about Data and his legacy.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
It did make me sad though when they said that the memories he downloaded into B4 were largely lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that one remaining thing of Data, and they basically kind of said that's gone.
Yeah.
But then there is that thing, that kind of exposition thing where they say like a positronic particle memory contains the entire memory.
Yeah.
Which, seems silly, but I don't mind that.
Yeah,
It seems like classic Star Trek kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it means that in the most infinitesimal piece of data might still contain his entirety, which is ironic because it's his non-human. In a way, that might mean that his non-human nature preserves his being.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to do.
But
in the season finale, when they're up against whatever the threat is, and it feels like Picard's on the ground, he's covered in blood. It's like, this is it, it's the end, and then suddenly Data shows up. He's like, surprise, motherfuckers! And he's holding like 4 guns.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Data, why do you still look like you're 70? But, I don't know.
He had an aging subroutine. I think they mentioned it in Birthright Part 1.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have a feeling maybe that isn't how the finale will go, but
maybe not. No.
it's just an idea.
I'd love to see Data just turn up and go, surprise, motherfuckers!
It'd be amazing.
In fact, just tweet Alex Kurtzman that idea. Just tweet it. I know straight away. I'll just be like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
They'll be like, oh no, now we've got to change the season finale because this fan has guessed it.
I love the bit where he went to his quantum museum room.
Yes.
And I feel like that was full of Easter eggs that I didn't see all of them, but but I saw the model of the Stargazer, right?
Yeah,
there was a Stargazer, I think, and was it the Argo? The Argo from maybe, was it Argo there? His yacht, was his yacht there? Maybe
it could have been. It was definitely one of. I got a feeling it was his yacht from Insurrection.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I noticed those 2 things, but I'm sure there was plenty of other stuff in there.
Yeah.
But also it made me chuckle that in sci-fi you put the word quantum in front of things to make it sound futuristic, like quantum museum and quantum washing machine.
Yeah,
like quantum means future.
Actually, that does lead me on to something I was thinking. They have a problem with synthetics, but they don't have a problem with AI. Still,
yeah.
using AI.
Yeah, despite what went down in Discovery season 2.
Indeed.
Well, they're not allowed to talk about it. Maybe that's
of course not. But yes, because you'd think that AIs are very. If they have a problem with synthetic beings, then they must have a problem with AI. Surely.
I mean, can you boil it down to the difference in how they're developed? Because holograms basically run out of, say, like the ship's computer. They basically generate out of standard computer systems, whereas an AI for a synth is a positronic brain.
The hologram wasn't the being, was it? The hologram was simply the avatar of the AI.
Yeah.
But assuming it's still sort of on the same basis, say, like Voyager's Doctor, that was still a program contained within a bog standard computer system, whereas Data's AI is based around the creation of a neural net through a positronic brain. And they're quite different
At one point
systems.
she stated that they are trying out humour.
But I chalk that up to in the same way that the EMH on Voyager would try out singing or...
Yes, but the EMH on Voyager was sentient or became sentient, therefore...
Also...
I'm not necessarily disputing it. I'm just wondering if the reason why holographic AI is acceptable versus Android is because there's a difference in the way that holograms AI is developed versus a positronic one. I don't know.
I think maybe it's just that it's easier for a synth to murder you.
Yeah.
Like brutally murder you. I think maybe that's it. That's just their thinking. But yeah, I know what you mean, because in Voyager there was a hint that a sort of a rebellion was being sowed, because there's an episode where a lot of EMHs have been kind of downgraded to be minors, and they get the Doctor's, is it Photons Be Free? Is it Photons Be Free? They get his novel and they pass it around, and there's a hint that they're getting that sort of message. So the idea that
we see it in that two-parter in Voyager with the Hirosian holograms, that all rebel as well. In fact, never mind the synths, watch out for the flipping holograms.
Yeah.
Track record.
What about the exocomps as well? I mean,
yeah. So, for them one episode, they were relatively benign.
Yeah, but if you treat, I mean, they might have gotten fed up.
Yeah, but I guess it was the synths that set fire to Mars.
Yes,
and the holograms haven't done that, so they're like, well, tell you what, if the holograms
set fire to Mars,
or do snowing on Venus, they're out as well.
Let's see.
They're all right.
Who else has set fire to Mars? The Irish. The Irish have. Not to mention,
that time.
The Moonies, they all had a big wedding and then set fire to Mars. If you set fire to Mars, come on.
Shall we? I think feels like we've said all the things we're going to say about Picard. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We'd be interested to know what our listeners thought of this first episode of Star Trek Picard as well.
Yes, we would.
How do they do that?
They can comment on the Twitters.
Oh yeah, okay. Cool.
What's our Twitter handle, Rick? What is that, Rick?
See, Will, this bit you can edit, I think.
No.
It's at 10Backward. So at 10Backward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, please let us know what you thought of this episode, listeners, and be cool to hopefully do this again on future episodes. Whether we can keep it up and do an episode on each episode of Picard, we don't know, because
or whether
sometimes
you would want that.
Yeah, indeed.
We don't know.
But it'd be cool to try and do it. But yeah, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
Bye.
Do you realize how incredible this is?
It's tradition. You ever noticed her bum? What? Her bum.
Oh, no!
I will say
Fewer things.
okay.
Enough of this self-indulgence.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is www.lowerdexradio.co.uk. You can reach us on the Twitters at 10Backward, 10 being the number and backward being the word backward. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/10Backward podcast. You can also email us at crew@lowerdexradio.co.uk. On a personal, individual level, my Twitter is @WiltHerland. Rick Everson's Twitter is @TrekFanRick. And Rick Palmer's Twitter is @Mr. Imhotep.
Hi, thank you again for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you might consider supporting us. We now have a Patreon where people can pledge small amounts to fund our ongoing projects like keeping our website up to date, new audio equipment as we're going along, and potentially opportunities to expand our content. You can go look at this at patreon.com/lowerdexradio. If you don't feel you can donate but would still like to support us, we would love it if you could subscribe to us on however you get your podcasts, through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or we're on various third-party apps. And if you could leave us a review on any of those, that would be fantastic and we'd be very appreciative.
Thanks again for listening, and please tune in for more podcasts from the 10Backward crew.
Let's make sure that history never forgets the name.
10Backward?
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
10 Backward.
10Backward.